Hey there, I'm Joey from EDA Trek, and this is just a short preamble before we get to the main part of the video. A lot of us goldfish our commander decks, right? I know I do it a lot when I'm brewing. I just pull a few sample hands and try and suss out whether this pile of cards that I've thrown together actually has any semblance of working or not. It can be hard to get a whole pod of players together, and when you finally do get to actually play your deck at game night, a little bit of extra experience before that moment can really help make sure that it doesn't just fall flat on its face on its maiden voyage. Having a little extra familiarity with a deck beforehand can really help you figure out things like tempo, your sequencing, help you figure out your tutor targets. That way you don't spend minutes and minutes and minutes searching for whichever card you're going to put into your hand, and instead you can just boom, immediately get it and doesn't take up too much time. It can help you figure out any non-bows, cards that don't work the way that you thought they did, or just lackluster cards in general that maybe you'll actually want to end up cutting from the deck that won't make it into the final version. Maybe it'll help you figure out if your mana curve is way out of whack, or it can help you identify really complicated interactions that are in your deck. That way you've got a little bit of practice executing on those things, and you can do them more cleanly when you're finally there in a game. Admittedly, there are a lot of flaws with goldfishing. For example, it won't let you know about the times when your opponents are going to point a bunch of removal at you, or when they're going to counterspell the things that you're up to. Goldfishing can definitely give you a false sense of security about how your deck is going to perform. But even so, I still like to do it because, it's just a little bit of fun, but also because sometimes goldfishing a deck can help me discover things, synergies, lines of play, small interactions that I wouldn't have been able to identify by simply looking at a deck list from a bird's eye view. It's a nice way of practicing a deck's potential, I guess. And frankly, goldfishing is a nice thing to do to kill some time while the video is exporting, because that can take a while. So maybe it's a little silly, but this video is just gonna be me doing exactly that. Goldfishing my favorite deck for a while, and giving my stream of thoughts as I go. Even if you don't care about this specific deck list, I hope that this video can still potentially be valuable as a way of, for example, highlighting the thought processes behind which opening hands get kept and why, or the thought processes behind certain types of sequencing, identifying certain weak points and how those weaknesses get shored up within the deck list, or which cards get sandbagged, for instance, or how the way that we play a certain deck can actually inform our decisions to exclude very popular cards for that deck according to EDA Trek, because they don't actually fit in with the way that we pilot that list. Things like that. Of course, I still have to introduce the deck, don't I? So let's take a brief look at the deck list before we get started. I've talked about her a lot. It's my girl Baba Lysaga, the Night Witch, aka my baby lasagna, a 3-mana 3/3 who can eat up to 3 permanents to draw 3 and drain 3 from my opponents. I love her to bits. I love her an irrational amount. This is my Baba Lysaga deck, sorted just by card types, but I'm actually going to do a quick swoop and sort it by custom categories instead, which I hope will give a better sense of how I think about these cards and their roles when I am piloting this deck. The link to this deck list and all of our deck lists can be found in the description box below, and I'll also make sure to link the budget version of this deck that I built for Shuffle Up and Play too. This deck has changed a lot since I first built her, but the overall goal is still the same: eat things and make my opponents pay for it. From the first day I built her, and in fact still to this day, I encounter a lot of people who misread this commander, thinking that she has to sacrifice 3 permanents. But thankfully she doesn't. You can sacrifice up to 3 permanents, and as long as you have at least 3 types among those permanents, that will meet her condition. So cards with multiple types are the key here, terrific ways to help keep our losses at a minimum while satisfying her list of potion ingredients. Artifact creatures, enchantment creatures, artifact lands, enchantments that make more artifacts, cards that help add more types, all help the deck get that engine going. So now to see some of these synergies in action, let's go goldfishing. And let's get started. I don't know how this is going to go. I really don't. This is definitely a different type of video than we normally do on this channel. This is a bit more experimental. This will be a whole lot more off the cuff. And let me know if you resonate with it. Let me know if you don't like it as well. Let's be honest, this is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. But I'm hoping that folks do enjoy it. Let's be frank, not everyone is going to be interested in some random Golgari nonsense. But hopefully it's still enjoyable. I just want to vocalize my thoughts as I go along. I hope that can potentially be informative. I hope it's entertaining. And really, I hope it's just kind of a nice chill time. I think that goldfishing has kind of a zen quality to it a little bit. I don't know if that feels the same way for everyone else, but it is kind of nice, a nice task to work with my hands, activate my brain in a small way while I'm listening to a podcast or something, and just kind of get some reps, get a feeling for a deck. And so I find it a very maybe relaxing is the better word to use. It can be a bit of a relaxing process. So maybe this is just a chill time. I hope you enjoy it. Let's see whether I would end up keeping this first potential opening hand. 7 cards. Would I keep this? Yes. Yes, I would, and that is the reason why. Good number of lands, getting both of our colors, seeing the Viridian Emissary, a thing I can eat to also find more lands feels great, but really, I've got interaction, and I got this. This is fully the best card in the deck. I know that sounds weird, but it really is. Oh my word, this is my favorite thing. This is a land that can also become an artifact and a creature, and all by itself, it can satisfy Baba's conditions. Terrific, absolutely terrific. Yeah, definitely keeping this hand. And how would things play out on my end? Well, you know, draw for the first turn. That would definitely be the play. This would be the only one that comes in tapped when I use it. So I would do that and go grab a forest because we got the Urborg that can turn that forest into a bayou a little bit later. Let's be honest, I'm going to cut the shuffling out. No one wants to watch that. It would be like watching a loading screen. So we are getting that into play and nothing we can play beyond that. So we would pass and we would hope that no one stifles our evolving wilds. All right, like in goldfishing, you never know what interaction other people have. I have totally seen someone stifle a turn 1 evolving wilds before. I would just pray that that wouldn't happen to me here, but it's impossible to really account for what opponents will do. So we presume that we untap with this resource in play. Okay, a nice draw. The thing that I would play would probably just be the regular... Nah, it would be the Mishra's Factory. Let's get that out there as soon as possible. I wouldn't want to lead with the Urborg because I don't need to fix other people's colors. I don't think so. I can let them struggle with their early colors. Only play Urborg when we absolutely need to, and get that Viridian Emissary out there. Kind of not a popular choice for Baba Lysaga, I don't think, but I do like that when I sacrifice Viridian Emissary and when I sacrifice, for example, an artifact land, like a Darksteel Citadel or something, that's going to be my 3 types, and the Emissary will replace the land that I just ate, so I don't feel quite as bad for eating my mana resources, which I do a lot. I eat a lot of my own lands in this deck. I try to activate Baba every single turn because I am greedy. I'm so greedy with this deck. I really like drawing 3 cards per activation. It feels really good. So I try to make it happen every turn if I can. I will mulligan hands that look perfectly good just because they have a lot of spells in them. Because if I don't have something that I can reliably sacrifice to hopefully draw into even more stuff to sacrifice, and that doesn't work for me. So I will eat a lot of my lands because they're fun fodder. Okay, so yeah, we'll presume we untap with stuff as is, that no one killed this for me on turn 2. Untap, get a Dryad of the Elysian Grove. It's nice enchantment creature. Lets us play more lands, but it would not be the thing that I run out there. Not right now. For me, it would absolutely be get Baba Lysaga out on turn 3. She's the draw engine of the deck. It's a little bit like playing Heuristic Study on turn 3. Kind of a weird comparison, I know, but like it's get your engine set up is the philosophy behind both of those plays, right? And I also do tend to notice that like removal doesn't instantly come pointed her way. If someone does have interaction, you know, Assassin Trophy, Swords to Plowshares, that kind of stuff in their hand, in an early turn, they don't usually use it proactively. Those tend to be things that I notice people sandbag until something is coming for them during, like, for example, a big attack step if someone's commander is starting to attack. Or I also tend to notice that Baba doesn't quite draw the same amount of attention as like an enemy Miram player might, for instance. So I do tend to notice that I untap with her and can activate her at least once before people start to like pay attention and be like, maybe we should get rid of that thing. Not a universal statement for everyone. Like some people might be a lot more cautious about running her out, but on an early turn, I do usually feel pretty safe about getting her out there, and it is usually the case that I'm able to untap with her. Not always, and if I don't get to untap with her, that can definitely be a really big setback, but that's true for every commander, right? This is goldfishing, it's casual. We're just gonna make a lot of assumptions here, but hopefully it is, again, about getting the rhythm and the flow of it. Seeing how things could hypothetically work out. So if we untap on turn 4, what are we drawing? What are we playing? A Reclamation Sage with a matte altar sleeve. That's a cool thing there. Yeah, Dryad of the Elysian Grove is absolutely the thing that we're playing right there, right? Dryad comes out. You know what? I would actually sequence this a little bit differently. I wouldn't want to play that right away. I would want to play the forest, leave the Mishra's Factory untapped, use the 3 to cast the Dryad, and then the Dryad can bring out the Urborg as the second land drop that it enables. The reason for that, this will obviously turn everything green, so I'm not worried about it not having left up green mana. I'm not going to play this, obviously, because that's a great piece of interaction. And now that this gives us all of our colors, I could also alternatively play the Assassin's Trophy if I need to. But really what I'd want to do is, potentially I'm able to use this as a blocker if anyone decides that they do want to attack, if someone else does have a particularly aggressive start, for instance. And that's a really fun interaction with Baba. That's that's actually why here I would definitely just pass in this position, because I almost never activate Baba Lysaga on my own turn. It's just really, it doesn't feel useful for me to do that. There are a lot of cards on Baba Lysaga's page, for instance, like Witch of the Moors or Silver Smoke Ghoul is another popular one that I've seen on there a lot. That I don't play in this deck because they only trigger if you've gained life. They only trigger on your end step. And that would mean that I'd have to activate Baba, and I don't like that restriction. I like the flexibility that I'm offered by activating her on other people's turns. For instance, if someone did attack me, a thing I could do here is tap, animate the Mishra's Factory, block, and then eat the Mishra's Factory. Artifact, creature, and land, I've got my potions, and I stopped some extra damage coming my way. Feels incredible. And that leaves me up for flexibility with doing this, or... yeah, so I almost never activate her on my own turn. Even if someone is trying to point removal in her direction, like let's say someone does decide now's the moment, I don't want him to be able to, activate that Baba too many times. I'm going to point a Swords to Plowshares her way. She doesn't say sacrifice other permanents. I could tap, sacrifice her and something, some other stuff to potentially get some value from her on the way out. Assuming that doesn't happen, assuming that isn't the case, here's obviously a tough point. It'd be difficult to know whether I need to blow the Assassin's Trophy or whether I would be able to sacrifice the Mishra's Factory to get the stuff. Hard to say. This is one of the big errors of goldfishing for sure. Would I need to use these pieces of interaction? Hopefully not. Hopefully I would, if someone plays something that is just big, I don't think I'm too worried until such time that it comes at me, right? But someone could be immediately there's a doubling season. I'm like, that could be a problem, but I'm just gonna, we hope that this would work out, that on the end step before my turn, I can tap, animate the Mishra's Factory, or actually, I wouldn't even potentially do that. Actually, yeah, that's a thing to notice. I would tap this for mana, use the Mishra's Factory to animate itself, and then Baba Lysaga would tap and eat just this thing, sacrifice up to 3, artifact, creature, and land. She gets the boom, 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 1, 2, 3 all on her own. And also, this, because of the Dryad, can be tapped for green mana, so potentially, maybe that's what would end up happening in this theoretical game. If someone got an enchantment or an artifact into play that was especially egregious, maybe that's what I end up doing. Who knows? Who knows whether I would need to have done that, but it certainly could be the case that I would need to. And we drew into some spicy stuff there, I'm not gonna lie. This is feeling pretty good. A lot of ways to get back these lands that we've been eating. That's really one of the main tricks of the deck, at least with the way that I built it, is that like getting back that Mishra's Factory over and over again, over and over again, over and over again, and then helping it deal even more damage. I mean, that's why it's one of the best cards in the deck. Not quite the linchpin. Baba herself is definitely the linchpin, but whew, yeah, we're definitely feeling good. Potentially with that sacrifice, also one last thing, I could have also sacrificed the Viridian Emissary to get an extra land. Baba can eat however much stuff that she wants. If you got extra types in there, that's perfectly fine. I probably wouldn't sacrifice that along with the factory that I just ate. It might not feel necessary, and keeping a blocker sounds nice. If I get, an artifact out next turn, for instance, that would also potentially feel pretty good. That way I have an artifact, a land, and a creature that I can sacrifice. So it seems like an ingredient I should hold on to instead of getting the land right away. So if we untap for this next turn, what are we getting? Wow, all right, a lot of recursion. See, this is why I like this. This is why I feel like I can be greedy with this deck, is that I've got these things like the World Shaper that encourage me to eat my own stuff. Let's see, what is the play is the Conduit of Worlds, right? Cast this one, and with 2 land drops from the Dryad of the Elysian Grove, Now we can play lands from our graveyard, and we can get back both of these. And because of Dryad of the Legion Grove, they can both tap for mana of any color right now, even the Evolving Wilds. So we are able to once again keep up some interaction and do our dumb BS again. Yeah, this feels pretty good. That would definitely be the play. It's probably around this time that people want to hit me. Because now that, like, usually Baba will survive for the, like, I can activate her usually one time. Sometimes, like, I think it's usually after the second activation that people start to really give me some side eye, and for good reason. Because after the first activation, I'm at 43 and everyone else is at 37. And that's already kind of like a kind of deal. But when I go to 46 and everyone else is at 34, like, just that life tracker right there in the middle of the table is showing that clearly I have more life than everyone else. Even if I have less stuff in play, they just see the bigger number and they're just like, that's annoying. And they're right, it is. And I've drawn a lot of cards doing it. So I have less stuff in play, but I have more cards in my hand. So I'm definitely doing some threatening stuff. You should attack me. And that tends to be when people get fed up. And they're like, yeah, no, I am actually going to start trying to mess with this guy. And I totally deserve it at that point. And that's why I'm hoping, this point I probably would need to sacrifice something else from somebody. But I also kind of imagine that, like, this is probably when removal would come Baba's way. We're also hitting around like turn 6, and like goldfishing past like turn 7 or anything like that feels a little bit silly to me. Not completely silly, but it is, like, especially turn 7, like, games end on turn 7. It's really hard to know. That's the time. I don't know, most of my games end around like turn 9 or so, but like people can absolutely volley and spike on a turn 7 like very, very easily if they're committed to doing it. So it would be around turn 7 that I'm just like, it's hard to know whether people are wiping the board or setting up some really big combo stuff. Hard to really say, but that was definitely a successful first hand. It led me into enough recursion that I'm able to get the primary loop over and over again. I'm able to recast Baba if I need to, and I have a direction to start going into. Finding one of the win conditions feels especially important right there, and having gotten a good deal of interaction. So that felt like a very successful opening hand, and I am excited to see what the next one looks like. All right, let's try another. What do we got? Would we keep this one? No, we don't keep one-landers. That's a instant chip. Does have some of my favorite cards in the whole deck in there, though. Like, Living Death, we all know is my absolute favorite card. Blossoming Bogbeast, I actually just want to kind of point out, these right here are all very fun synergies. I guess actually before I even get to those, I'll mention Selvala Stampede is a recent addition that I use honestly just to cheat stuff from my hand into play. A lot of people I notice tend to vote for you to cheat something into play for free because they don't want you to get free creatures from your deck, because that one feels more like giving you free card advantage, whereas this is just cheating on mana. So this is one of those things that, despite the fact that I don't have too many lands left, it can let me get higher cost cards into play, multiple at the same time. But like, Blossoming Bogbeast might not be the most powerful win condition I could possibly be playing, but the fact that my commander gains me through life makes me feel so good about like this, because then I'll usually be able to give everything that I've got a +5, even if I don't have that many creatures. +5 in trample is still a really good attack trigger, and sometimes I'm able to activate her multiple times if I've been able to untap her, but it's even better with something like Zurin Orb. Like, if you've got that combination in play, I will absolutely sacrifice all of my lands, not just to make tokens off of Titania, but also to have this go up to like a +15. Like, that sounds good. And the Marionette Master, one of the classic treasure win conditions out there. I've got some treasure makers in the deck, like Tireless Provisioner and things like that. Not a ton of treasure makers, to be perfectly honest, but I have enough things that make small little artifact tokens that I've seen this do pretty good chunks of damage. But it's especially funny when you have the Zurin Orb out with Marionette Master, because I've got a lot of artifact lands too, so I will use the artifact lands to chonk people down with the Marionette Master. That also feels really, really great. Especially if you've got like Mazarek to give you even more counters, or Rancor to power it up even further. There's fun stuff that happens there. So this is obviously a mulligan, but it does have some of my very favorite cards in the deck. There are good synergies here that I clearly would want to draw later in the game, not early in the game. So yeah, goodbye. All right, let's take a look at this next one, see whether we would keep this guy. Would I? Yes. Oh, yes. That is a terrific, not the best, like, it's not a Soul Ring, but like, I feel great about that type of hand. This is a snap keep right here. Everything's castable. We've got our colors, and we've got protection here. And I mean that in more than one way, especially the mana ramp that Ordeal of Nylea provides us. Oh, I'm so excited about that one. So yeah, turn 1, we would draw, get a God's Eye. All right, that feels nice. Run out, simple Undergrowth Stadium would be the land play here. Nothing to actually cast, obviously, so moving around to second turn, what do we got? Vault of Whispers. I'd probably put that one into play as the next one. The Twilight Mire is more reliable color fixing, and it would help us cast the Invasion of Ikoria. Invasion of Ikoria is definitely very, very good, and it's nice early. Like, I will absolutely cast this as a 2-drop because I will sometimes go and find a Memnite or an Ornithopter with it, and that means I've got a battle, an artifact, and a creature. So for 2 mana, I get all 3 of my types. That feels great. Here, though, since it can also tutor up other stuff like win conditions if I need it, I tend not to do it that way just because I don't know. Tutoring up a Memnite, I like the meme of that. Tutoring up a meme knight. But tutoring up a win condition feels, a little bit. I try to make sure the deck doesn't feel too linear just for me. I like the variety of when I play it. But also, like, it does have that flexibility, so I don't want to waste that flexibility if I don't have to. And in this case, I do have another card that I can play that will also still give me a lot of good stuff, and that's his Gift of Completion here, which is nice 2-mana enchantment. It's going to make me an Incubator token. Incubator with 3 counters on it. I'm a level with you. The counters don't matter. But this is a token that can turn into a creature on the other side. So it is an enchantment, an artifact, and potentially an artifact creature. Specifically, what I like so much about this one is that enchantments are a card type that I've had to make sure that I don't cut too many of from the deck. Artifacts and creatures, and lands of course, are really easy to find a lot of that you're willing to eat. Enchantments are a little bit harder to find things that you're willing to eat. Not universally so, but like, it can be the case. There are some really good enchantments and I'm just like, I'm not sure if I want to eat this one, present company notwithstanding. But I particularly most enjoy that it is on 2 separate bodies. It's 2 separate things here. So if necessary, for instance, whenever I did get Baba out, I could flip this token and then I've got my enchantment and artifact creature, but also I can sacrifice this enchantment and artifact. So, it's nice to have, for example, an enchantment creature. Those are really good in a deck like this too. But if the types that a thing can be come on separate things that I can sacrifice, that gives me more flexibility in a way that just absolutely, I love that. So that's a great turn 2 play. Feels very, very good. Assuming we get to untap and draw a Nature's Chosen, which can untap Baba once on my own turn. Love to see that here. The thing that we do here, again, we're running out Baba. There's potentially a conversation to be had here about saving Baba until next turn when I know that I can immediately slap a piece of protection on her. I think I've already mentioned that I don't usually see something pointed at her right away. Potentially, I'm, off in my evaluation about that. I would absolutely understand anyone who feels like they want to save Baba until they can protect her. I'm a little bit more risky with my plays here, I think, which is just going to be a different taste level for folks. But I'm greedy. I'm a little greedy. And I'm especially greedy to hopefully untap with all of this stuff. And on the next play, get that God's Eye out, because this is one of those lands that can give us a benefit when it dies, gives us a little 1/1. Not a huge deal, but like it's definitely kind of nice. And I'm really, really hoping that I'd be able to, if I've got all of this stuff going on, pay a green and a colorless and get that Ordeal of Nylea into play. What a perfect card for this deck, because that second paragraph doesn't care about the first paragraph. It's just when you sacrifice Ordeal of Nylea. Doesn't say why you sacrifice. So this is a 2-mana Explosive Vegetation. 2 mana to go find 2 lands and be an ingredient for Baba. It's perfect. Another thing that I'd be, I think this is, it does feel wise to kind of immediately put the Kai's Ghost form onto Baba Lysaga as well. Using that 2 mana to flip over the Incubator token so that I've got an artifact creature that I can sacrifice in company with one of these enchantments. That also does seem important, but if I feel really pressured to make sure that Baba doesn't die, then putting Kai's Ghost form on her also could be very, very valuable, I think. Particularly, like, the thing with Kai's Ghost form The thing with all of those, Necrogen Communion, any of those things, Journey to Eternity, like, they're the ultimate protection spell. When I see these, I don't think it's just an enchantment. I think it's an enchantment and a creature. That's like kind of how I think of it, because you can sacrifice the ghost form and the thing it's enchanting, and Baba and Kai's ghost form will still see that. So you can sacrifice them both to Baba, and Kai's ghost form will still pop that thing right back. There's a thing on the Kai's ghost form Scryfall page that says if Kai's ghost form goes away at the same time as whatever it's enchanting, you still get the trigger back, which is phenomenally cool. And this makes it so hard for anyone to point any removal at her now. Like, if you try to swords her, I can tap, sacrifice her and the enchantment and some other erroneous thing, and I'm feeling good. Like, I'm still good, and she'll come right back, and then the spell will fizzle because the game object has changed, right? So that feels just excellent. Yeah, very excited about that. I wouldn't want to put Nature's Chosen or really other enchantments at all onto Baba. Like, there is kind of an awkwardness here of putting both of these onto her, because, you know, Kai's ghost form could blink her and then this would fall off. But I mean, I'm going to be trying to eat this basically as soon as possible, right? Kind of an awkwardness with the types here. I am actually curious, like, a couple of options open up here. What would I sacrifice? Because I could have Baba sacrifice, for instance, the Ordeal herself and the artifact token, and then I wouldn't have to eat any of my lands. But since Ordeal is giving me back some more lands, I actually think I'd want to keep the protection on Baba for as long as possible. And I would tap, sacrifice Ordeal of Nylea and the Vault of Whispers. Yeah, I think that feels the best to me, because that's artifact, land, enchantment. The Ordeal of Nylea trigger would resolve before Baba's activation goes off, so that would get 2 basics, 2 swamps, because we've already got 2 forests in our hands, so we're feeling good on colors. Cool. And then Baba's activation would resolve Colony Garden, Gilded Goose, Starscream. All right, this will be a fun one to explain, actually. I'm happy to get to explain that one. Yeah, it feels like a nice thing there. And yeah, I think that we're feeling pretty well set up for ourselves. It's entirely possible that someone does play some type of board wipe at this point, and then Baba comes back. So I don't know. We can pretend that maybe the Kai's ghost form has already gone away if we want to, for the purposes of like imagining what other people are doing at this time. Really hard to predict anything like that. Let's say maybe it did happen. Untap on our turn, you know, assuming that they didn't kill the enchantment and then kill Baba. I think the move would actually be to get that Starscream out. Okay, so this one's weird, and I'm gonna level with y'all. I'm not happy about playing Starscream either. Okay, like I don't like the art. It feels like an immersion break. The Lord of the Rings cards that I have in this deck feel, you know, more in line with the fantasy thing that I'm going for. It just feels, you know, better for me. But like, genuinely, the biggest problem that I had with this deck was its win conditions. The very first draft that I had of this deck was a lot of the aristocrats, the classic stuff that deals damage, the AoE damage, area of effect, hitting everybody out there. So the Conrads, the Zulaport Cutthroats, the Bastion of Remembrance, all of those that would deal a lot of damage to everybody when my stuff dies. And those are good. They're especially good in like the Teysa and all of those other types of things of the world, like very, very, very good cards. Since I'm so aggressive with eating all of my own stuff, though, I didn't always have the same type of token army that decks like Marin or Teysa classically have. So it was hard to make those reliable. And more importantly, since Baba is already doing my own life gain and making other opponents' stuff go down, I become an enemy kind of quickly. And the tempo of people wanting to devote some resources to knock my stupid life total down, which is perfectly fair, that does sometimes open up a window for other people to kind of get a little bit of their stuff going on, get maybe their zombie army or their elf army has a moment of reprieve when everyone's looking at me because of my high life total. It sometimes allows another person to build up in a way that can get a little more out of control. Like, and also just a lot of Commander games have archenemy situations in general, right? Like, so another person could absolutely start taking over. And if all of my damage stuff is AoE damage, and yet I need to be a team player and work with other people to help take down the archenemy, that feels bad. I'm actively destroying my allies if I'm just to try and do damage. So I found myself very, very desperate to deal more targeted damage. And a lot of the win conditions that I've chosen for this deck over time, as it's evolved, are the types of win conditions that allow me to actually focus on a specific person rather than just damaging everybody. And that's especially helped me when the game comes down to a one-on-one. If I'm up against a single person, pinging people for one each time when I don't have a whole lot of tokens, pinging off of just a Bash and Remembrance doesn't deal nearly as much damage as some of the other stuff that I can do with, for example, cards like this. So again, I'm not happy about it, but every time I've been able to cast and resolve this card, it has done so much work for me. It's won me at least 2 games, maybe 3. And the reason why is this back half. You play it on the More Than Meets the Eye side. This back half will Flying Menace Haste. It's a creature on your own turn, and it hits someone and gives them the monarchy. And that probably seems weird. Why would you want to give that away? But then it's not a creature. Unless it's your turn, it's not a creature. So it's hard for it to die. It doesn't tend to get like swept up in a regular board wipe. And if you can hit that same person again, which with Menace and Flying is actually not too hard to do. Like, you get to pick the first person that you're turning into the Monarch, assuming the Monarch isn't already in the game by the time you play this, which most of the time it's not going to be, unless you're up against like a Marchesa deck or something. Assuming that there wasn't already a Monarchy, in which case this would flip over immediately. But like usually this will give someone the Monarchy, and I got to choose who became the Monarch, and it's probably going to be the person who doesn't have a whole lot to defend with and who might not be able to get something to defend with next turn. If I can snag it back with them on the next turn, if that survives around, it flips over to this front half. And it says, whenever you draw a card, if you're the Monarch, target opponent loses 2 life. She draws so many cards. This is straight up like at the end of the turn is going to be 2 damage. At the beginning of the turn is going to be 2 damage, and every Baba activation is going to be 6. So potentially I can deal 10 damage to a single person per turn. And I'm using cards like the new Starving Revenant. When that came out, I was also, yes, this is the kind of thing that I need, because I will use cards like this Nature's Chosen to untap Baba and activate her multiple times. So this isn't just dealing 6, it can deal 12 just off of my Baba activations. This is definitely a really good late game card. But since I don't have like as much action going on here necessarily, like other stuff I feel I must set up, I think I actually would end up potentially playing it here just to kind of get that ball rolling. It's also just fun. Like I get excited when I see it, which is maybe a little bit silly, but like it's a dumb card. I don't like the art is absolutely an immersion break, but like what it does to a game, people are like, oh, when they see it. And that is the kind of response that I'm excited to make happen earlier in the game if possible. So I probably would, More Than Meets the Eye this thing, swing it in, give someone else the Monarchy. And initially I thought that the thing I'd want to play would be the Colony Garden, but I don't think it is. I think actually the land I'd want to play for turn, because I don't think I played a land this turn, did I? I got really excited talking about the Starscream. The thing I'd want to do here is run out that Gilded Goose, get ourselves a food token, favorite food token in the game right there, and then hold off, because I think I want to save mana to transform the Incubator. I absolutely could put a Nature's Chosen onto Baba right now. I want to save this as a surprise. This is the type of card I definitely sandbag a lot, because it allows Baba to untap once on my own turn. And if, for example, I can clock someone with Starscream, flip it over, get that really big damaging side, that's the kind of thing I want to do. And anyway, yeah, leaving open 2 mana to potentially flip the Incubator token, sacrifice the food. I doubt I would need to. Or leaving up like hypothetical Tear Asunder or Assassin's Trophy mana that might make people a little bit scared. That seems very valuable to me in this moment. Ultimately, the thing that I would want to do is definitely, it's the, if all goes undisturbed, flipping over the Incubator so that now it's an artifact creature and I can go nom on those. That's the play I'd want to do before it gets back around to me. And if it does get back around to me, things are looking good. If Baba is allowed to live at that point, big if, I know. But like before it gets to my turn, some cool stuff's happening. This would actually allow me to surveil before the Baba trigger even goes off, because the Gifts of Completion sees this Phyrexian go away. So surveil, it's a Dark Moss Bridge. I don't feel too attached to that. I've got lands already. So I draw a different 3. That's funny. Tragic. That's a fun thing. This is a particular type of removal that I like, because I can control when things die pretty regularly. I've got Tragic Slip and Mortality Spear, which both get more effective if you've gained life or if something has died that turn. And those are actually very fun to draw into. If I did have mana up, potentially I could kill something before it gets to me. Can't be the Goose, obviously, because it's got Summon Sickness still. Just dropped a dice. But yeah, that's fun draws, is what I'm saying. But yeah, if stuff gets back around to me, if all went well, again, I know we're playing with some big ifs here. Presumably, hopefully, like, I don't know what land it is that I'm playing. Darksteel Citadel, maybe. Or Colony Garden, get a plant token. Maybe that would be wiser. Maybe not. Because the thing that I'm going to end up doing here is I'm putting that Nature's Chosen onto the Baba Lysaga, and I'm hoping that I'm able to get the Monarchy back from someone. Maybe the Monarchy has shifted around. Really hard to say. It's obviously, who can ever really tell? If there's a creature in my way, for sure, I'd absolutely be willing to tap Baba in advance, eat my own creature to Tragic Slip something so that the Starscream can get through. But like, if it does manage to hit, gain the Monarch, and flip back over, and then Baba's able to eat and untap, just, oh man, that feels so good. Because like, I would totally be willing to eat these things right here, tap that for 1 mana before we go. But then you got your land, your artifact, your creature. That would end up making a colorless spirit on its way out, which we will probably be eating promptly. Give us 3 more cards with Baba, and that's 6 damage to someone off of the Starscream. We're making a real nuisance of ourselves. Untap Baba Lysaga with the Nature's Chosen, and God, see, this is why I like this deck. This deck is silly. Drawn to an Ugin's Nexus, which 100% is the next thing that I don't even know what I'm sacrificing else from that, but like, Ugin's Nexus is bomb. It's an extra turn spell that you have to eat. You have to make sure that it dies, but you totally be able to. Nature's Chosen would have untapped Baba so she can activate 1 more time. Yeah, I'll eat a land, this random freaking spirit token, and the Ugin's Nexus, which will exile itself and get an extra turn, draw 3, that's 6 total drain off of Baba, that's 12 damage off the Starscream, that's a Monarch draw at the end of the turn because of the way that we flipped Starscream over, and then we get to do something else again next turn. We are making a right nuisance of ourselves, and we're drawing a whole lot of cards. We have to discard a whole bunch of them, probably a bunch of the lands in case we happen to get like a World Shaper or a Splendid Reclamation on a future couple of hands. Maybe not too many lands, actually, because we do want to play some of them with Azusa. We did just go through a lot of resources. Okay, so maybe not every land, but like, I think you get the idea. Like, this is the kind of thing that the ship is like pointed in the direction of. And that's why I play dumb stuff like that. But more importantly, the lesson, I think, is like making sure that you got something that can target a specific person instead of always being AoE damage. That way, if there is one particular enemy that you have to deal with, you're able to. But this is definitely the point where you become the arch enemy, right? So that felt like a really good foray, pretty good send off. A lot of hypotheticals are being made. I know, not every game gets to look like that. Other opponents have interaction. This is just like the potential exists there, and it's nice to be familiar with that thing, with what potential could be unlocked and why certain cards are there. So if all went well, which probably wouldn't, there was a lot that hand was doing that I was really, really happy to see. All right, how is our next one? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oof. Tempting, but no. Without a reliable way to have 3 lands to get Baba into play. We do have a 2-drop. The thing is, Jolrael, I don't want to play her on turn 2 most of the time. I'm almost never going to eat her. She's also one of my win conditions. That 6 mana effect is very, very good to turn all of your random like 0/1 Colony Garden plant tokens or 0/2 Ornithopters into like a 10/10 because of how many cards Baba can draw in the late game. This is a really fun win condition, but like having win conditions in your opening hand, win conditions that you don't want to reveal too soon and that you're pretty much never going to want to eat, I wouldn't feel good about this hand, especially because so much of it, especially just because I don't have enough actual lands. So yeah, that would be a mull. Now, thankfully, in multiplayer games, the first mulligan is free, so how about this next one? Would we keep... Yes, in a heartbeat. A lot of the same stuff I've already seen, but yeah, I'm at 100% I'm keeping this. Meme Night is, again, well, I guess, gotta draw... Do I even want to play this out? Okay. Oh, this is the kind of hand that would almost make me feel bad. Before I even cast anything, get the Meme Night out there for the memes. Turn 1, get a Soul Ring down. And then next turn, next turn, oh man. Next turn, it's, yeah, the real answer is to get Baba out there, because we want to get that draw engine out there. I'm tempted to have gotten that one out there, but like we need lands to draw for this to be super effective. And so if we're undisturbed, which frankly we might not be if people do have early interaction, but usually on turn 2 people have their own signets they're trying to play, right? So if we are, this is a good hand. If we are undisturbed to this point, this is a bonkers hand. Probably, no, I'm not playing the Urborg, I'm playing the Mishra's Foundry. That's what I'm getting out there. And then we're tapping 1, 2, 3 to get the Dryad out there as well. That Dryad fixes our colors, lets us play another land from hand. Oh, this is just gnarly. And then, yeah, I actually would put the Instill Energy onto the Baba Lysaga here. Because yeah, let's see, this can tap for 1 mana, this can tap for 1 mana, that's 2, that can be used to animate the Mishra's Foundry. Baba can, I'm using her on my own turn, but the Instill Energy will allow me to untap her once on my own turn. Eat, and then go 1, 2, 3. This hand is stupid. This is a stupid hand. And then can untap, and on a future turn, I'll be able to restore, get that thing back for more types, or actually no, I can untap the Baba Lysaga on an opponent's turn. Baba Lysaga, tap. I've got so many mana resources, I absolutely would eat a swamp, artifact, and creature before it becomes my turn again, or in response to whatever removal someone's inevitably pointing at my girl at this moment, right? That is a totally silly hand. And even if she did get removed here, like let's imagine, you know, that she did say goodbye, which I can only imagine would be the case. Like, I still feel great about the options that we've got here. Sanctum Weaver would probably be the thing I'm excited to get out next. Let's say maybe I would get the Urborg out here. Depends on whether the Dryad lived. Depends on whether the Soul Ring is still there. People absolutely could have killed the Soul Ring. It's hard to really ever tell. But getting Aranis and the Sanctum Weaver to set up to get those engines back out here once again feels great. Next turn, using these to get extra mana. Aranis, attack trigger, getting back the Mishra's Foundry, getting Baba out once more when possible, and then holding up some interaction, hopefully digging to find a little bit more. And then if I don't dig into my Jolriels or, you know, any Mazarek or Marionette Master or anything like that, potentially Invasion of Ikoria might go find me like a Titania if I absolutely need it, or just something with multiple types. Yeah, that was a dumb hand. But being perfectly honest, I don't tend to Goldfish with hands that are obnoxious right off the bat, because it feels like it's not usually going to go that well for me in the real game. Would I keep this? Land, spell, land. Oh, starting off with a very interesting thing here. No, I would not keep this, despite the fact that it looks like a good hand. You got a good number of lands in here. You don't have anything except a land to sacrifice to Baba's ability. I've got nothing to eat when she is finally able to activate. So I would be very reliant upon hoping that I draw something eatable in the first couple of things, the first couple of card steps. It could happen, like I can run through it, but honestly, I would be inclined to ship this despite the mana reliability. So, you know, first turn, drawing another land. All right, cool. Overgrown Tomb would, of course, be the play. Let's see. Second turn, a Splendid Reclamation to get back lands that I eat. That's nice, but I'm still not feeling great about stuff. Let's get the Swamp into play there, or maybe it would have been the Twilight Mire or the Mycosynth Gardens. I would hold off on playing the Yavimaya. I don't want to fix anyone else's colors if I don't have to. Third turn, another land. All right, neat. Yeah, let's get that Gardens, and we'd use that for the green, the black. So we would play Baba Mach 1, but I mean, already I feel very, very nervous because I cannot activate Baba by the time it gets her back around to my turn. So if she survives, which I hope she does, I'm nervous. I am fully dependent on drawing like an enchantment that makes an artifact, or an artifact creature right now, or something like that, and didn't. so yeah, I would absolutely not have kept that opening hand, because Yeah, we're just really not in a good spot as a result of that. It was a little bit too risky. I don't even have that many spells in this deck. I just happen to have drawn most of them. So that's why that hand would have been a mulligan. Another. How would we feel about the pretty good? Pretty good. We'd feel pretty good about this next one. Yeah. The wild growth in particular, I'm especially pleased to see, because the wild growth definitely switches up the order of lands that I would normally expect to play, given this configuration, because I mean, you can get Baba Lysaga out very, very fast with that, actually. Because normally I want to do the Terramorphic Expanse, because that would be tapped, but wild growth changes some of that math. So yeah, we would draw for the first turn. Necromancy, never mad to see a reanimation spell. Never, ever mad to see a reanimation spell. Nothing to reanimate right now, but we don't mind. We don't mind. And also, these cards in particular have a very cool interaction with Tyver that I'll try and demonstrate with this. I really like it. But yeah, the first turn play would be the Verdant Catacombs. We're going to go find the Overgrown Tomb. We're going to put the Wild Growth onto the Overgrown Tomb. You don't need to see me shuffling for all of that. So yeah, Overgrown Tomb, tapping that to put the Wild Growth onto it, and then next turn, we're able to play the Swamp and get Baba out. I mean, just big yes energy about all of that. Boom, we're getting there. I actually realized Infernal Grasp might be worth talking about why I play this particular one amongst my removal spell suite. Just like, I think it's probably just one of the better black removal spells in general, right? Just like the 2 life is kind of negligible in a 4 to life format, and you compare that to like Go for the Throat, which has that restriction where it can't kill an artifact creature, and sometimes that does come up. There are especially a lot of like popular artifact commanders out there, and so no begrudging that, but like just especially the 2 life in a 4 to life format already being something that I feel okay with, and the fact that the commander gains life, so I feel like it's a pretty expendable resource, that tends to inform why I've gone for the Infernal Grasp there. Assuming we get to untap, hopefully we do. The thing that we draw, hey, Urza Saga, an enchantment and a land, and it makes an artifact creature. Types out the wazoo with this thing. That feels great, and it's going to be the land drop ? Yeah, yeah, I do think it would be. Potentially, I'd want to get the Terramorphic Expanse out there because I'm pretty clearly going to be playing a 3-mana card on this turn, so I'd want something that's tapped. But I think I actually do go with the Urza Saga as the land play, just to make sure that I'm getting those chapters up as soon as possible to get, like, help it go search for a soul ring or something on that final chapter. But there's also a very, very annoying and interesting thing that happens with sagas in relation to Baba Lysaga. Hey, Baba Lysaga. Build an all saga Baba Lysaga deck. That would be flavor. That'd be really, really fun. Sorry, I knocked the dice over. What we're doing for sure is to pay 3, get that Journey to Eternity onto Baba Lysaga, and that will help protect her. If someone does try to send any removal her way, we can tap and sacrifice Baba and the Eternity and a land here, which feels pretty cool. Also, importantly, with like, it would be important, I think, to make sure that this swamp is tapped, because this would be the thing that we want to eat amongst our lands. We wouldn't want to necessarily sacrifice this, and we wouldn't want to get rid of either of these two, because we're already sacrificing an enchantment, and if we lost this, then we'd lose this as well. So it would be important to me to make sure that I tap this swamp. But even if removal doesn't come her way, and I don't have to pull the plug on this, I'm still going to. Whether someone tries to remove her, or if it gets around to the end step before my turn, the thing we're definitely doing is we are tapping Baba Lysaga. We are sacrificing her, the Journey to Eternity, and the swamp. And a fun thing's happening here, because Journey to Eternity is one of those cool enchantments that is going to flip, be right back, pop her back, and that all feels amazing. We're going to be able to draw 3 and drain 3, which is, of course, fantastic. But not only that, but also, this is the reason why I would have played the Urza Saga instead of the Terramorphic Expanse. That gives us 2 mana, because this can tap for any color, to make sure that we can also get rid of someone else's thing. So whether someone pointed removal our way, or if it got to our end step, or if we wanted to kill something of an opponent's, that interaction would have given us the mana ability to pull that off, in addition to getting our types and doing our own engine thing. And that would be pretty important, I think. Ooh, hey buddy. High key, one of my favorite card designs of the past year. I just really, really like it. I don't even think it's necessarily the most bomb thing I could be doing in this deck, but I just really like this design, and there are some fun pieces that I've been able to pull off with it. So And it kind of makes me, ooh. All right, this would be kind of fun, actually. So if that was all, if all went well, if all is happening here on the turn, what are we doing? A Rancor. Hi, buddy. Oh, man. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? There's a lot of options here. We're not getting the Tyvar out yet. He can untap Baba for multiple activations, but we don't need to do that just yet. I don't think we need to worry about the Urza Saga getting that artifact creature in either. I think the Rancor is probably a priority, but really where my mind goes to, honestly, is that this might be one of the rare times that I do activate Baba on my own turn to overload the hand, make sure that Gruff Triplets gets in there, and then Necromancy it on a future turn. That feels especially cool to me. I think that's what I'd want to try and do. And, I'm kind of thinking things over now. I think that actually Urza Saga is going to be key for this turn, because I don't want to... I theoretically could play the Liquid Metal Coating, use it to turn Urza Saga into also an artifact, because unlike Liquid Metal Torque, this one can target lands. But I do kind of want the final bonus off of Urza Saga. And I think that means that what I'd actually end up doing is activating the Urza Saga to make that construct token. And then with the Atzel, putting this Rancor onto it. And now the types are there. Since there's nothing else to play, land for turn would be the Terramorphic. Find a random basic, I'll shuffle later. And we feel okay here. And now we have options. We don't, there's not an obligation here to definitely activate Baba on our own turn, especially because depending on what's going on the board out there, that could leave us very shields down if we're eating this and it's just like, boom, hey, come and attack me. The reason that I might be inclined to do it, though, is because if we overload the hand and we can toss this into the discard, it's just fun to reanimate. Very, very fun to reanimate. It might not be the actual wise play, but for the purposes of demonstrating something fun, it's the play I guess I'll do. So yeah, let's say that we sacrifice that. Rancor goes right back to hand. We would draw 3 off of the Baba. Hey, Ornithopter. I can free play that. That feels good. And now there's too much stuff in the hand, so we got to toss something. And I'm just eager to see that one in the grave. So eager. The question is, what else would we discard? Because we've got 8 cards here. It's kind of a tough call, but I think actually the Rancor is, it's nice that it's repeatable. It goes right back to hand. It's a thing to sacrifice over and over again to Baba, but I want to keep a lot of the other synergies here. For example, Liquid Metal Coating, being able to turn anything into an artifact and then we can Beseiju it for, kill anything for 1 mana. That feels really, really cool. The reanimation spells feel particularly key to make sure that everything works the way we want it to. And then the Galadrim Ambush, we're definitely moving into a stage of the game where we're going to need this. And we're also moving into a stage of the game where it's just who knows what we're really going to even be able to pull off. Other people are definitely up to a lot of nonsense now. But there's still more potential stuff to show here. So I will do at least one more turn of hypotheticals here. The Urza Saga is the most important hypothetical thing that happens here. It goes to chapter 3 and it says sacrifice after 3. And apparently it means sacrifice after that final ability resolves, which gives some just bogus abilities for us to pull off here, where Baba Lysaga can actually tap and sacrifice it before that effect happens. I guess people have used that to make a construct token before the Urza Saga goes away. I think I sort of expected that people always activated that on the upkeep, not on the beginning of the main phase when the Saga abilities happen. But I've been reassured by judges that this is a thing that I can in fact do, is that I will still get that search your library ability, even if this goes to chapter 3 and that triggers, and then I sacrifice this before it resolves. So happy to do that here. Very happy to go and find ourselves a soul ring. I guess technically we would draw the 3 off of the Baba before that happens. Hopefully we wouldn't draw the soul ring, and then that last ability would resolve and get us some nasty stuff. Feels wild. Did I draw for turn? I think I'm technically supposed to have drawn for turn because this happens after the draw step, right? Sorry, I messed it. Oh, wow. Hi, Anime Dead. Sorry, I messed it up. That's on me. All right, that will be a jump cut on your end. The system that I am using to record all this nearly crapped out on me, so I was really afraid I nearly lost all the footage. Thankfully, seems like I didn't, so that's good, but oh, well, that was nerve-wracking. And now I'm just trying to remember how I was, where I was here. So I spread things out a little bit. Make it easier to see the hand. This was a lot of cards. So this was the beginning of the turn. There was the Urza Saga thing. The draw step that I nearly forgot about because I was so excited to talk about the Urza Saga thing. And one of those rare activations where I used Baba on my own turn instead of leaving her up for an opponent's turn. The plan here was to use that Necromancy to get back the thing that I discarded. Since I got the Animate Dead, let's save a mana and use that instead. Land play for turn will be the Blink Moth, a lot like the Mishra's Factory or Foundry stuff that we've seen earlier. Getting multiple types off that feels really fantastic. The way I would tap for this would be, I would tap the Blink Moth. It depends on whether I feel like I would need a flying blocker, but I think the fact that it produces colorless mana would be relevant here given the other stuff that I want to do. Or no, actually, it would be using this for 2 colorless, this for a black. So then we have 1 mana floating after this. So Animate Dead. We are getting that into play to, there it is, snagging that Gruff Triplets out of the graveyard and making 2 copies of itself. They were like 60 cents, so I actually just bought 2 more copies of Gruff Triplets instead of using copy tokens. I also have copy tokens because ideally I'm trying to make as many of these as possible. But the yeah, it's just kind of a fun thing. They're in a slightly different colored sleeve, and so yeah, Gruff Triplets is doing that. This is a slightly awkward thing that Gruff Triplets cares about its own power, and Animate Dead does reduce power. But I'm okay with that. Saving a mana seems like it could be pretty important for this stage of the game, especially when we've got things like the Galadrim ambush and such like that. I am tempted here now. So since we have the 1 mana still floating from having tapped the Soul Ring, the play here, I think I then want to get out Tyvar Jubilant Brawler. 2, untap Baba so that we can do more silly stuff if we need to, such as eating the Blinkmoth Nexus and keeping this fuel going. It does mean shields down, potentially, depending on what other people have in play. Galadrim Ambush would be the wiser thing to do. Totally a defensible position there. Probably a wiser decision, let's be honest. But I think for me, I'm just like, ooh, can I demonstrate some fun stuff in this moment? And you know, it's a total pipe dream, but it's just like seeing funny stuff is pretty neat. So Tyvar enters with 3 and has a +1 untap up to 1 target creature. That would give us Baba back. And that also leaves us with the 1 mana to activate Boseiju and destroy something if we need to. Ideally, I really prefer, I really love to have Liquid Metal Coating in play to turn something into an artifact so that Boseiju can destroy even creatures and stuff like that. That's especially fun. But here, I don't know, it seems kind of neat. It probably seems likely that we would need to activate this, use the forest, kill something off, and then on an opponent's turn, tap this for mana and sacrifice it and do the typical Baba train. Except that would I even kill off the Blink Moth? I actually am not sure. I don't think Blink Moth is the play actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, potentially I would not use that, and I would actually just eat these, because then that would make, yeah, on someone's end step, what I would actually end up eating is these folks right here. As enchantment, creature, and land. And then we get +1 counters on the Gruff Triplets, since that previous one had 2 power. Now these are 5 power trample, and we still have this to sacrifice for other types. And then we draw a 3. Can't forget to do the draw through. Hi, these are good cards. So yeah, are we actually like allowed to untap with a Planeswalker? Are people not killing off our stuff? Probably not, but let's just see this out, just because it seems kind of funny. That was the Baba activation. Draw step, Dunes of the Dead. That's nice enough, I suppose. The command tower would end up being the thing we play, but really what I'd be excited here to do is like Necromancy and get Gruff Triplets back and make even more copies, you know? Like this is the kind of stuff that makes me really enjoy this deck. It's very, very silly. And the thing that I also wanted to mention with Tyvar, I think, if I recall correctly, I hinted at it earlier. A special thing that I wanted to mention with Tyvar that I'm not really able to showcase here necessarily, but Tyvar is very, very cool for its ability to +1 untap up to 1 target creature, but he also says you can activate your abilities as though those creatures had haste, which is great. Like, if Baba dies and I ever have to recast her, then giving the haste with that feels really cool. But it's also neat if I, for example, were to use the necromancy on Baba Lysaga herself, because let's say I were to sacrifice her to her own ability along with some other hypothetical random assortment of things here. I could then cast some reanimation spell, Rise of the Witch Queen, whatever, and get her back, and then she can activate again without me even having to use the Tyvar ability, and then I can do something else with it, or untap her again with the +1 off of that. So Tyvar just has some very neat cases. Tyvar usually represents not just one untap for Baba, but sometimes multiple. And then here, I'm just feeling... I mean, this just feels absolutely silly, because now even if I just, like, Baba Lysaga, yeah, I could sacrifice the Blinkmoth Nexus, or I could sacrifice all these, and then give that much extra power to all of the folks. There's some bonkers things happening here. Even if I tapped Baba just to sacrifice, like, this here, then all these remaining are getting 3+1 counters. Untap with Tyvar, and then tap sacrifice these, which just got 3+1 counters from this one dying, and so did these, right? Put those there to demonstrate. And then if I retap her, not even trying to go for any specific potion, but just to have a sacrifice outlet, now these had 6 power, and so these are getting 6 more +1 counters, and they are smashing in for a ton of damage. And that isn't even a huge mana investment to have done that. So it allows us to leave up some of the things like Tear Asunder or the Galadrim Ambush. It also doesn't commit all of our potential win conditions to the board, because Titania was just there. Potentially, since I have this much stuff in play, I'm sort of inviting a board wipe to come my direction, so maybe World Shaper is a play, or I leave up the Instant Speed Interaction, probably the more responsible play. But like, yeah, if people destroy the bonker stuff that we have going on here, which is likely, because look what a target we've drawn on ourselves, having something out here like the World Shaper to help get back any lands when a board wipe hits, or the sandbagging another potential win condition card like Titania, like we feel set up for future turns even if Baba Lysaga goes away. We played with a whole lot of hypotheticals to even get here in the first place, but I think it demonstrates something really, really fun. Like the Gruff Triplet synergy is very, very silly. The amount of stuff that World Shaper would help get us back into play to really make sure that we are set up for the rest of the game, that is silly too. And these instants that we potentially could have kept up also feel really, really great. Sort of like the Beseiju example earlier, maybe I would have even played the Liquimetal Coating to manipulate my own card types, but also exile an artifact for cheaper with a Tear Asunder and still get the coating right into play. So much silly stuff that is enabled by this ridiculous commander. I know a whole lot of it was a pipe dream, but in terms of like hypothetically things that this deck can do, this is some of my favorite types of Magic to play. So I felt very good about that hand, even if we played around with a lot of, would this really happen? I hope it does. And it's the kind of thing that, like, I look at it and I'm like, listen, how can it not put a smile on your face if it does? So yeah, I felt really happy with that one. I felt way happy with that one. Glad I didn't lose the footage. All right, I'm in love with you. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. I've been talking pretty nonstop for a while, so I hope that this was fun. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I had a pretty good time just going through some of these. Even saying it out loud sometimes will help you understand it in a different way. So I think I learned something too, which is a really fun place to be. This deck is my heart and soul. This deck is my absolute favorite. No matter which iteration of Baba we get, whether it's etched foil or artist proof version, I love the different Mach 1, Mach 2 Babas, and I love the silly stuff that she lets me do. This deck gives me the giggles, and I think also it's important that like the other folks that I play against also, I see smiles on their faces when some of those cool things happen too, and so that's what makes it really feel fun to me. Hope you had a good chill time enjoying some goldfishing stuff. Let me know if you enjoy the goldfishing stuff. Let me know whether this is the kind of thing that maybe we shouldn't do a whole lot more of in the future. I'm curious to hear folks' thoughts. And also, like, if you've gotten specific revelations from goldfishing a deck too, share them. Like, if there are any specific techniques that you've got while you're goldfishing, I want to hear those too. I've got certain rules, like if there's a soul ring in my opening hand with a goldfish, I tend not to keep those types of hands because it feels like I can't rely on that. I don't know that I would get like good information from that hand. It would feel like that kind of like might bias my impression of what the deck can do if I always have like a turn 1 soul ring, like that memory affecting stuff. So like, are there any particular rules that you do? Do you have particular intervals where you're just like, oh, I know that they're definitely coming from my commander? Do you think that my particular practices were silly here? I'm interested. I think this was just kind of some nice casual fun, but I'm curious to hear what your habits are, what your processes are. And yeah, I think goldfishing is a kind of a nice, casual, cool, zen sort of relaxing place that we can figure a couple of things out that maybe we didn't know before and see what works, maybe figured out some stuff that doesn't. So it seems cool to share those techniques with other people. And again, I just hope you had a chill time. Take care, y'all, and thanks for watching.